tonight I've been looking at the brakes and the different braking mechanisms and playing around a little bit with the pedals as well. I do have the multiple sets of pedals I pointed out before. They're all different, and I do have the Brooklyn style blanks, which are probably what I'm going to be using. So this is the brake pedal and this is the clutch. You can see the clutch has no attachment points on it, so I'm going to have to figure out how the clutch is going to work and rig up the right little actuating rod between the clutch pedal and the actual shaft here. So this needs to be pushed up as you push the pedal, and this is one of the pieces I still don't have, and it's hard to get. There's a different version of this arm where the mounting bolt is on this side to give you more clearance around the gearbox, and I think I need one of those, which may be a little bit of a problem. It just depends how much movement is needed on this. So I won't know until I've actually got the flywheel and clutch in there to know how much the release needs to move to release it. The other thing I started doing was assembling the brake cross shafts. So what happens is there's a steel piece like this sort of slides on there. I have to tap this back out. It's quite tight. It goes through a sort of split hole here with a bolt, so you have to kind of wedge that open to get this in and out. This whole compensating mechanism though rotates around it, so it's fixed in position. Unfortunately, with it in that position, I can't quite get this to slide over the shaft, but this isn't correct anyway, it's too long. So this goes down in there, if we can see, and you can sort of see this is the one I was actually going to use. Oops, it's all coming apart, but there's these two metal rods, and that's what hook onto there, and that's what gives you the adjustment on the foot brake. So because this goes right in there, you can see the alignment between the brake pedal and the lug on this is in the wrong place. So this is going to have to be shortened. So I'm guessing that can be shortened down. There are different castings, so if I could get hold of the right actual piece, I guess they're either forged or cast, that's actually shorter, because what I need is this rod would connect onto there with a little clevis pin. I'm going to need to make a hole in the chassis, and then that's what actuates the brake when you move the brake pedal. You can see it's a fairly solid sort of rod, pinned at both ends. This is an original one. I do have this other little piece, but this is completely wrong as well. So you can see you would need this to be on the other side for this one to work. But I think this might actually be more of the correct length. I need to sort of measure all this up. The only way that would work is if it's up that way, but that's not the correct direction of movement. So I think that's now stuck on there. The handbrake lever, as you can see, is going to be way too tall, but you can actually reach it. You have to reach around the steering wheel, but you can get to it. Okay, it would just need to be shorter. So as I said, I think what I will do is modify that one just to be a shorter handbrake. I do need to wait until the remote gear shifter arrives as well, because I'm not sure exactly how that's going to come out of here. So it comes out here. It's actually got a little bit of a twist to it, so the the gear selection gate isn't sitting flat, it's actually tipped a bit to that side, so the gear stick points a little bit that way so you can get to it. But I'm pretty sure that should clear all of this, hopefully. So the other thing I've been looking at is all the different brake components to figure out what I need to order. And I have most things, but there's a lot of things where it's just best to replace them. So anything like old springs, I'm going to replace all of the springs that go in these tubes. So these are effectively the brake return springs. There's two. This goes on the back. There's a special stud that goes on here, which I have, and then this sort of clamps on there, and it goes to one of the levers on the rear brakes down here. I have all of those. There's two springs in here, and this is one of the front ones, and you can see the little D-shaped plates. I've got plenty of those, but they do get quite worn out around the little pins, so I may need to weld those up and re-drill them. But those are handed, and that D shape fits over the brake cams, and so that's what gives you the return action on the brake cams. These have a spring in them. I've got a bag of rusty old springs here. I'm not going to reuse any of these. There's little pins that go through. That's this pin here. So this is why these wear out, because you've got that rubbing on that little pin, and you can see the amount of wear on those. So all of those get replaced. The little rod end things should be okay, but there are also these long bolts, which I may be able to reuse some of these once I clean them up. Obviously I need 4 of them, not too worn out, and some of them are fairly heavily pitted, but I think I actually have, this one's a little bit bent, but that could be straightened. There'll be another one in here. There'll be another 2 in there. They're all available new, so I'll see what they cost new. But this is the special stud that goes in the torque tube. It just cleaned up fine. So that screws in there. And I have plenty of the tubes, so obviously I need 4 of these. This little plate on the end here is a little bit mangled, but I believe you can also get new ones of those. So I'll have a look and see what's available. And these are the brake cam actuating levers. Now these are handed. You can just sort of vaguely see the difference in the boss there. One side's a bit longer. I'm not sure exactly which way around they go at the moment, but effectively those fit on here, and you can sort of see how the cable will come up around this pulley, and it comes up to the cam here, and that's what actuates the front brakes. And then of course the return spring is what fits on these pins, so that sort of fits in. I think it gets twisted up the other way, something like that anyway. So definitely I will be getting new springs for these, because you want them all equal. This is why there are 2 on the back, because it has to equal out the 2 on the front wheels. So it looks like I'll be getting new springs. I probably have little pins like this, but if I can get those as well, I'll get new ones of those. I should be good for these arms. This is the handbrake return spring, and this normally that little metal tab screws on there, and then that goes to one of the levers on the rear brakes. I'll probably get a new one of those as well. And this is the little bracket and pulley wheel that the brake cable at the rear goes around. So this piece ends up fitting under the back of the axle here, and effectively the brake cable goes from one front wheel through the pulley down under the front. There's another set of pulleys at the front there, I think. It loops sort of around this compensator, so it goes around the bottom one and then around the top one down to that pulley on the back, which operates the levers that are attached to these, and then it comes back through here, through there, no, it goes over the top here, round through there, under there. You can see the cable guide, back out through the front and up to the front brakes, somehow managing to avoid all of this. So that's going to be very interesting. I think that's kind of it. This rod, I believe this is only used on the saloon cars, and that would go from that pedal shaft there to this shaft, but you can see on mine it hits the chassis, so I'm not sure if that means the back of the gearbox needs to be raised up a little bit more, or if this just isn't used. I think this isn't really used on the Brooklyns. So there's still lots of bits and pieces to try and figure out. And then the only other thing I need to do is put all of my clutch and engine rotating parts that need to be balanced into a box, and we're going to take those to see the engine balancing guy on Wednesday lunchtime, hopefully. Tonight I have 3 small jobs I want to get done. The first is cleaning up the rest of the brake parts. I have actually put an order in to the Riley Register Spares for new springs, cable, cotter pins, various bits and pieces I need, but I thought I'd go ahead and dismantle the brake return springs that came off the parts car, and you can sort of see what these typically look like. So they've been sitting in a bucket of degreaser overnight pretty much, and all of these that I've taken apart seem to be full of grease. And the problem is, I think these get wet and it just ends up making a horrible sticky mess of the springs and the insides of the tubes and the bolts that go through that hold everything together. I am going to reuse the bolts because they seem okay. The springs, I'm getting all new ones. They're £7 or £8 each. You only need 4 of them. It's worth replacing them just to get to know that your brakes are going to work properly. You can see I've got a bag full of old rusty ones here. So I'm going to keep cleaning these up just so I can pick the best 4 outside tubes and reuse those. I'll paint those up. These ones aren't too bad. I think often the holes in the end here get worn out. A couple of them have had washers in the end there. These ones did. So I think there is supposed to be a washer in there that goes up against the spring. And the way this works is there's a washer on the end of these bolts that goes through the spring, that goes through this way around. And then there's the little end pieces on the end that screw on down here. Those are all good. I can reuse those. I've got plenty of them. I've bought new clevis pins for them, and I bought a new one of these just because they were available, and it'll be nice and shiny. The rest have just been in the degreaser. I just need to clean those up and paint them. Probably use my little wire wheel, which is brilliant. I really don't know why I didn't get one of these sooner, because I'm just using it all the time now for cleaning up little bits and pieces. The other job, this is one of the springs. You can see they're just caked in old grease. I'm not sure what the best thing to lubricate these with is. Modern grease will be better. It's going to be more waterproof and longer lasting, but I don't think you need to pack the whole thing full of grease. So it might just be the sort of thing where the occasional spray of some sort of spray lithium grease or something will clean it all up. Put those in the degreaser. Horrible sticky stuff, that old grease. The other thing I've been looking at is starter motors. So I have 3 of them. I don't think any of them actually work. I have hooked them up to a battery and none of them do anything. These 2 are the same. They're Rotax MA RM35S 12 volt starters. This one's a little bit different. It's a M35A. This one's completely seized up. Oh no, it does turn a little bit, but the spring is pretty old and crusty. The gear is stuck, so that's not even moving. I may soak this in penetrant overnight and see if that helps. It does have a little drive that comes out the back, which is interesting. This one has been left with its cover off, so you can see the commutator there is just covered in stuff. Maybe that'll clean up okay, I'm not sure. These seem to be the remains of brushes in there. Are they, or are they from the... No, I think those are from the field windings. So I should be able to measure across those and see if they're conductive. This one has a broken spring. You can see the spring's just completely smashed. I'm pretty sure you can actually get new springs for these as well. This one here does turn, but it didn't seem to work when I tried to power it up. I haven't taken the cover off to have a look and see what's inside there. But hopefully between these 3, I can put together a good one. The other job was just getting all my parts ready to take to the engine builder, which is what this tub's for. So I need to get the crankshaft out of here, and I've got the clutch and flywheel assembly all ready to go. Just need to make sure I don't forget anything that the balancer is going to need. So that'll be the next job. This isn't water in here, it's actually WD-40. So just to make sure everything stays clean, every so often I give it a spray of WD-40 just to keep the moisture off it.